It's the pre-market ritual you never knew you needed. Get ready to Gap and Go with the Calum Trading Institute.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Gap and Go. I guess let's just get straight into the meat of today's Gap and Go, which is the de-dollarization theme that has continued to outperform. In fact, you look at, I guess the poster child for all this is not just crypto, but even more important than crypto is gold. And you look at your precious metals. What is it? ADX 60, very rational at today's level. And I think even Ken Griffin talked about it the other day, right? How you're seeing so much inflow happen in the gold that even they're astonished by how much is coming into the gold market, right? So, Jason, maybe you can share your thoughts. I know it's very difficult, right, to understand whether it's peak, whether it's will continue to rise. I think those are very difficult questions, but let's just try our best to understand what's happening.
Gold is up 50% year to date. Last year, I think 37%. They call it the debasement trade. Debasement trade, diba? Kasi parang if you look at all the policies of the major countries, diba? They're all cutting. They're all spending a shit ton of money. So fiscal and monetary is there. Diba? So like yung best sabi ni Besant, diba? We will outgrow the debt problem, debt and fiscal problem. Diba? So all of this, parang you're trying to quote unquote devalue the currency. Diba? And so that's why all the hedge is going up. Diba? So parang you look at this gold as parang people are hedging their bets, against devaluing the currency. Diba? So that's it. So why? So if the currency is being devalued, why is the DXY going up? Kasi lahat naman sila are the same boat eh. Like nanalo si Takaichi in Japan, right? So she's being seen as parang same playbook as what's happening in the US with Trump. Make Japan great again. Cut interest rates, spend more money. So they're all the same boat. And actually, this is also massively bullish for stocks. Diba? So sabi nga may recent interview si Paul Tudor Jones. Diba? He said that para daw tong 1999, he's seeing a massive speculative frenzy in the next few years. Diba? And it looks like we're setting up for that, honestly.
I was present, 1999.
1999, diba nag-cut si, Greenspan? Diba? And that actually triggered the huge move that became a bubble in the year 2000. I mean, that became a bubble, diba?
And I don't know how different it is from 1999, but if you look at the breadth actually isn't across the board. So, I mean, I understand that you look at your S&P sitting at new highs, right? I mean, close to new highs. The breadth isn't as widespread as you'd see from Diba? And I don't know, right? And I don't know when this is gonna stop, but I think the point being here is that even in the real economy, right? We had a government shutdown. You continue to see job layoffs. I think last week we talked about Accenture cutting out 22,000 jobs globally. You continue to see cuts in workforce, and basically the markets continue to chug along. And so it really, really feels that everything happening today is rational rather than irrational.
Yeah.
So
I think it makes perfect sense if you look at what's happening today. Diba? So we have the AI. Diba?
Mm-hmm.
So AI is creating like massive winners. I mean, just look at the stocks that popped in the past few weeks. Diba? Mga AMD, Intel, right? MU. So it's creating massive winners, but it's also creating losers. Diba? So we are still in this K-shaped economy that started in the pandemic. Diba? So I think it's perfectly rational. Diba?
Yeah, and um, and part of it, even lower drug prices that happened last week, right? Last few days. And I was laughing because shouldn't this also be bad for business? Because you're cutting drug prices, then your profit goes down. But obviously the market likes it, and I assume it's because that cloud or that uncertainty coming from government policy is now tapos na, right? That's the reason why nag-rally din ang Pfizer. But I guess the point being here is that despite all the some uncertainty or concern on equity markets, I think you'll probably still see pockets of opportunity going forward. And I'm sure Brian, I mean, if we talk to Brian in a bit, he'll also share to you guys all the news stories that are also popping out in the new sectors that are all popping out, right?
I think that the things that are moving recently are outside of those yung usual metric na breadth metrics, like yung yung mga MMTW natin ganyan. I think most of what's moving last week is outside of it. You see F-Cell, Plug, and US acquisitions of TMQ, di ba? Yung mga mines. Nandiyan yung mga play recently. So I think buhay na buhay yung retail trading, especially in this section of the market. They're taking advantage of they're placing bets on where to LAC, what's the next acquisition of Trump. And it's good kasi this one I think this one is a sustained one at least for the next quarter. So you see it's really an imminent need for them to secure these things, in my view.
Ang tingin ko, di na next few quarters. Maybe years.
I think the way he deals with or talks to Xi, kasi China is the master manufacturer. And for you to invite and encourage him to manufacture in the US, really have to have these inputs in place, in supply chain in place. So these things are imminent, yung energy sources going up across the board, even the speculative ones, yung Oklo. Ballard, when was the last time you heard about it? BLDP? It's been a long... BLDP? Ballard Power. BLD, Delta. DP, Delta Papa. BLDP. But when was the last time you heard about this? Ngayon lang umakyat ulit. So, across different sources of energy, everything's going up because processing power is needed, energy needed for charging EVs, data centers, new factories, so all those things in place. So it's also outside of your usual CrowdStrike, about Datadog, that section of the index and the Mag 7. Parang the speculation now is in, you can say, arc issues.
And that's also one of the themes that we continue to talk about, right? If you listen to our podcast, it's always been about AI, right? And everybody questions whether AI theme has been played out extensively, right? Which might be. I mean, you're looking at your Mag 7, it's been the play since maybe last 2023, right? And it continues to chug along, right? Because before, I always assumed, like in 1999 and 1998, this hype on internet was not creating levels of cash flow. And that's the reason why you've seen companies trade at 50, 60 times price to sales, or very expensive valuation, pets.com, etc., etc. Today, you're actually seeing that impact happen, right? And it's hard to argue that. How can I argue about AI when acceleration of earnings growth, for example, from your Mag 7 went from 13% now, 18% for some of them, right? And the forecast that I showed before in March was that the 5-year forecast was still at 18%.
Mm.
It went down a bit because of the March Liberation Day. Today, if you look at the 5-year forecast, it's now sitting back at 21%. Right? So I guess the issue or the difference behind everything is that the adoption of technology today is just too fast. So we can talk about AI replacing, especially the middle managers, right? I mean, I think you've seen that clearly with the Accenture. I think that was the biggest news what happened, right? But Accenture is, correct me if I'm wrong, very profitable at today's level. How about we just pull it out? So you're cutting jobs, not because business is bad, but business is actually sitting close to what's this $7.5 billion. It's not even like business is down 40%. That's the reason why you're cutting jobs. You're cutting jobs at peak net earnings, diba? Which I think goes to show that. And I don't know also, maybe revenues might be affected going forward, but all I know is that earnings is also going to be boosted for 2026 and forward, right? So it's hard to argue that this train has stopped. And I assume we're starting to see more subsectors now see that spillover, right? And obviously, it's been a government mandate from the US that, hey, we need to lead this AI war. And that's the reason why they've been positioning, especially in what Brian was talking about on the input costs. Because if you look at it from rare earths, for example, simply as that, right? Rare earths, 69% of total rare earth today is supplied by China. And 98% of all refined rare earth is done in China, right? And that's the reason why US cannot touch China, because today, so we talk about the trade war, trade deal keeps on getting kicked down the can down the road. The reason why is because if they stop the rare earths from coming into US, patay ka na, right? Rare earth is used for EVs, wind turbines, all your electronics, all your Apple iPhones, all your cell phones, etc., right? And they cannot stop that from happening.
Agree. All the speculation now, if you go back to 1999, so it's very difficult to trade the market if you're basing it on kumikita na ba to o hindi. So parang ang nangyayari is it's all in the cash flow from financing activities ang nangyayari. Para dun pumapasok lahat.
Lahat ng cash flow before, di ba?
Yun yung and just have a nice idea and narrative packet na yan. So I think that's the general feeling then or logic then of trading the market.
And I blame interest rates, right? Because at interest rates near 1%, right? This has been 1% for the longest period of time, right? Prior to the climb here, right? Because you can easily tell me, hey, I mean, money is free anyway, right? I'll just speculate wherever, right? And I think it's also one of the podcasts that was sent. I think it was by Chamat, I think, that was also talking about private equity is dead today, right? Simply because from 1%, now you're sitting at 4.5% interest rates. Patay na talaga kasi may cost of capital ka na eh. And it's hard to see excess when your cost of capital is at elevated. I wouldn't say expensive or high, right? Because like what I've shown you guys, this is high, right? But it's elevated historically, right? And whenever you're seeing interest rates elevated historically, it's hard to say that things are not being priced rationally because there's cost to it, right? You can't just spend recklessly because you still have to pay down your interest rates and your maturity levels on the road. So how I look at everything today, everything seems so far going along with the same theme that Jason also continues to talk about, which is the AI, which is your dollar debasement, and also the reason why your gold has been probably the biggest winner this year, right? Everybody's talking about gold. Everybody's asking me, should I buy more gold?
Mhm.
And I don't have an answer for it. I'll be honest. I mean, we're about to hit $4,000. It was continuously asked from me from 3,000, and I don't have an answer for it because from what I see, everything's all overbought, right? But again, like from that statement, overbought continues to remain overbought. Everybody's waiting for a pullback to enter gold. It's not giving you that entry. So, story of our lives.
Philippines has a lot of gold.
Well, that's the reason why you're trying to be bullish because of Tampakan, diba? Tampakan has
Yeah.
$170 billion of gold and copper reserves, and it's supposed to be operational by the end of 2026. But different story. It's also
Yeah.
not listed. Anyway, Hong Kong bull market
Ay,
also.
Edmond, can I share a stock
Sure.
for the audience? So this recent acquisition by US, I think 10% he bought into TMQ. TMQ. So the mine in play is the UMKT mine in Canada, which is 50-50 owned by TMQ and South 32.
Wait, tama ba ito?
TMQ Trilogy, TMQ 30. Yeah. So recently yan. So they bought in.
Oh,
So
where's
it followed the LAC, the LAC acquisition in this one. So 50-50 owned by this one and South 32, which is the mine has parang inferred resources of worth 15 billion. That means if you mine everything, the biggest mineral it has is copper, which is one of the highest. They said is one of the highest copper grade in the world. So if you mine everything, 15 billion. So if you discount it, probably the value is cash flows wise 3 to 5 billion. So currently sitting at 5 billion. So in terms of mining phase, it's in the speculation phase because it's expected to operate at 2033. But it's starting the end of this year. So by phase lang, so trade accordingly lang. This is in the speculation phase versus an LAC ba? LAC is
Also speculative. Still early.
speculative, but
Development phase.
investments are coming in already. This one design pa lang. So yon.
Thank
So
you.
just straight ahead. Yeah.
I love these types of issues. In relation, because somebody wrote on our podcast talking about nuclear energy and artificial sun and thorium energy, right? Which has been happening for a while. So I've been trying to take a look also at some of these guys in China, because China is the number one, right? And the largest rare earth deposit, China Northern Rare Earth, which is in Inner Mongolia. Look at this performance, right? I mean, until today, all of them very early stages. If you look at it, and hopefully, rare earth prices. If I'm not mistaken, there's 18 composites of rare earth, or probably even more. I forgot the number. But the point being here is that across the board, I think you're seeing use cases for all of it. So that's the reason why even your nuclear stocks, largest nuclear in China, also looks like they're all ripe. So things to watch out for, also for Hong Kong. I mean, this is related to your commodity play because I think that has been very key today. Everybody's trying to source out their own raw material source for this AI play that's been happening today.
One more thing, Edmund. Price action wise, if you look at FIG-R, so this is common. This kind of price action is common. FIG-R, so this is a blockchain, very high growth, first large use case of blockchain, IPO. If you look at that tail last night, so this is used. This is common. This is called, if you're going to buy it tonight, this is called a 180. So this is very common. We see this every day. That's part of the difficulty of the market in price. If you're just following the price action, parating may shake out. So this is caused by pure market makers. Yan sila Citadel. So they just get all the buy stops, the sell stops, ganyan. And then at the end of the day, you'll notice parang trajectory is always up pa rin, di ba? Despite this volatility. So yun lang, just parang lang, awareness lang of price action.
I agree. I think Brian's point here is that you'll see this huge volatility, huli lahat ng tao, tapos bebenta within the day. And then the next day, if actually this doesn't go down, you have to be mentally prepared also.
Yes.
I think that's the important part of what Brian was talking about.
How about yung Capricorn? Pwede pa ba yan?
Sorry?
Yung Capricorn?
We'll get to it in a bit. So Hong Kong, China, actually, for people who don't know, I think it's the third. So number one is gold. Number two, wait, parang mali. Wait, I forgot the chart. Number one is gold. Basta 1, 2, 3 is gold, Bitcoin, and third actually is European assets, and fourth is Hong Kong. EM China. And lo and behold, I mean, Hong Kong is also paving its own way, and they know that they're in a great position, right? Like what Brian was talking about, it's all about on the manufacturing and who's leading this war. And basically what China did is say, hey, we're going to be producing everything at a fraction of a cost. You can't do anything, right? And everything has been so-called copycat. And you've seen Xiaomi release the iPhone 17 Pro. But you look at it, it's like fantastic at a fraction of the cost of the Apple iPhone, right? But one thing I'd like to highlight here was a more important segment, because we always talk about GPUs being the poster child of AI. Alibaba producing now their own chips. And I think this has been key, right? Because they're lagging behind. China has been lagging behind. That's the reason why the H20 chips of NVIDIA have been hot commodity, right? But even the foundries have done well, right? So you look at 981, even the smaller foundries, 1347, it's a bull market across the board. And even the largest, the NVIDIA, so-called NVIDIA today of China, which is what Jason was talking about, which is Capricorn, also looks like they. And I don't know, it looks like everything is just beginning, in my opinion. I know what we're seeing. Everything looks like they're extended, right? But it looks like the story is just starting to play out also in China. And people ask me, why am I like more positive on outside? It's because for me, it's simple. Because all the sectors actually are not going up across the board. And what do I mean? Your consumer sector, if you look at your consumer sector, even in the US, mahina pa eh. Diba? So, I mean, just take a look at your big names. Nike, Starbucks, mahina pa lahat eh. Right? And then you look at, Hong Kong side naman, 2020, right? In fact, look at the biggest winner last year, Pop Mart. Sorry, this is not Pop Mart. Pop Mart, right? I don't know also, but I don't know also, but this looks like the start of a popping phase, right? But I'm just saying that, you know, your milk tea has been weak also. So I really don't think that what's happening today, yes, it's a bull market. We always say it's a bull market, right? But it's not across the board. And I think that's actually healthy for any equity market. And that's the reason why I continue to like Hong Kong and China. And that's why I've also been telling people to just focus on China. Now, if you don't want to pick, it's fine, right? Because for me, it's much easier to just pick the ETF and the index, and at least you don't get involved in any place out or gap down, which happened to me in Horizon Robotics, gap down. But I think it's still there, right?
Yeah.
Normal lang yan eh. Every time it goes up, you'll see place out, right? Ito kaka-IPO lang, nag-place out na 3 times 3 times Parang 1, 2, and then 3. Galing eh, diba? Parang this is common in Hong Kong, so don't be surprised, right? But yeah, I think you're still gonna see plenty of more action happen in outside, and this AI team is probably just gonna see more rotation.
I think
Sorry, you're gonna add something before we?
sorry. I think kasi parang there's a lot of bubble talk but actually it's all FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. If you look at it, actually the capex of the hyperscalers are still accelerating. Diba? And parang tingin ko, it's like we're somewhere halfway through the capex cycle. Diba? So ang sabi kasi nila that yung scaling of the AI follows a log curve. So kailangan daw 10 times compute to unlock the next tier performance. Diba? So I think everyone is racing to unlock the next level of performance. Diba? So that's why, that's it.
Well, remains to be seen. I always tell people keep a glass half empty, half full, and during the good times, you try to ride it as much as you can. Right now, the bad times, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore with regards to the Philippines.
Gold.
Wait, let me just be clear first. All asset classes year to date are up. Fixed income, T-bills, commodities, everything is up year to date. Except Philippines is down 7%. Are we there yet? Is this it? I don't know. Dito na ba? Irrational selling na ba to?
Hindi.
Hindi ko alam. Like, I don't know. All I know, I think it's oversold. Right? That one, I will not disagree with anybody. I just don't know if ito na ba yun or...
It's difficult to get excited with valuation. If it's valuation only.
Oh, mura eh.
Uh,
This is the one that's...
I mean,
This is the one that's... I think the question mark, right? Because your Philippine peso is rallying, obviously, because you're seeing outflow. And then your DXY, this is what scares me, actually, is that it's in rallying mode, right? So I don't know. Look, I'm not trying to be. I really don't know. Is this resistance? Is this like that, or what's the?
Well, for me, kasi parang the biggest red flag really is that you have a massive bull market outside, tapos naiwan yung Philippines. So the market must have a very good reason why they, did that. Parang if it was like a broad-based sell-off across, emerging markets, that would be like a different story, diba?
But Jason, we're 8 times PE.
A few months ago, we said 11 times, mura na. Okay, now it's 9 times.
Hindi ko alam. I don't know.
It's difficult to use corruption as the excuse of this market. Even before the hearings,
To be fair, binding has been in play. Apex, Felix, Nickel Asia, all these stocks, to be fair, have done extremely well, right? And rightfully so, because gold is sitting at $4,000, right? Sorry, near $4,000 per ounce. So the question is, are we going to see this spillover happen? I don't know. I hope so. I really, really hope so.
When is the Maynila IPO?
Supposed to be soon enough. If I'm not mistaken, end of October. Parang, wait, don't take my word for that. Let me double check. But some facts about Maynila, it was reduced from 20 to 15 pesos. And I think the cash dividend for that is around 6.6%.
Oh, that's good.
So you're buying it as a yield play. And to be fair, Manila Water has done really well this year, right? On top of that, Meralco also has done really well. So your utilities actually the past year, because they're being defensive and you're buying the yield, have done well. Except itong utility na to. All right.
glaring difference between markets, Hong Kong and US and the Philippines. We're looking at utilities here, tubig, kuryente.
Mga defensive tayo, defensive Philippines.
Ah,
Kasi yun nila yung silver lining, no? Hindi naman lahat bumababa eh.
nalungkot nga ako sa Pilipinas eh. May event kami kahapon eh. Hindi ko alam kung nasasabihin ko eh. But I showed them a chart showing 40 years of bear market happening. And
40 years?
40 years of political uncertainty. Sorry, let me just post it. I think I can post it. No? Sorry. It's 40 years of political uncertainty coming from Cory administration all the way to the previous administration, right? And despite all the political uncertainty, you've had a 20-year period where equities barely moved from Ramos all the way to 2010, the start of Noynoy Aquino's administration. 20 years. So get used to it. That's all I'll say. Expect another 20 years of political uncertainty. All right. With that being said, I think that's enough for today's Gap and Go. Hopefully, things get better in the Philippines. But like what we were talking about, there's a bull market happening outside, and that has been our focus there, not here. Maybe things to highlight have been increasing amount of administration linked acquisition. And everything has been a national security, like what Brian was talking about, mainly because of input. And you're seeing it, LAC, TMQ, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian?
Yeah.
And continued others, right? Because same thing also what you're seeing in Hong Kong and China. That war on the input costs, it's because China has always been in control. So I think we all know that the AI play is continuously being talked about, but the funny part is you're still seeing rotation happen that's how broad the AI part is. So you could see it in healthcare, you could see it in utilities, you could see it in other tech stocks. And really the biggest difference is the earnings contribution that we continue to see on those AI related issues versus the ones that are not. Hopefully that continues. Hong Kong still also remains in a bull market, and pray for the Philippines. I guess that's it. All right. So that being said, thanks guys so much. I'll see you guys 2 weeks from now. Thank you.
Bye.